As an overview, so the MTV Exit campaign is a campaign that produces documentaries and animation films, puts on concerts, and this is all to raise awareness about human trafficking and indentured servitude as well as prostitution. Can you kind of define? You had mentioned campaign strategy. Can you tell us about how you go along and how the campaign strategy was devised and how much differentiation there is between countries and markets?
Okay. So, I mean, essentially we use similar techniques that MTV would use on a standard sort of marketing campaign, So we use on-air products, we use marketing and public relations, we use on-the-ground concerts, and we use online digital media. So with those kind of facets, we kind of develop a campaign that tries to work as effectively as it can on two levels. A kind of regional level where we can produce a product that will be relevant across a wide spectrum of audiences across the world, down to a really local level. And this is kind of a balance, and I wouldn't say that you hit that perfect media mix every time. It's a constantly changing thing. And then when we go into that local country, it's really about working with the local artists, working with the local media organizations, the local broadcasters, to get a sense and to understand, what that market is and how best to communicate.
You mentioned tailor-making, kind of these campaigns. Can you tell us a little bit about the particular hotbed, the countries that are maybe more where human trafficking is more of a predominant social phenomenon?
Well, I mean, first of all, you're going to find trafficking pretty much everywhere, in every country. Whether a country is a source for trafficking victims, a transit point, or a destination. So, I mean, Thailand is a classic example, and Thailand is all of those three. You will have, some Thai people will be vulnerable to being trafficked to economies like Japan or Korea or Europe. However, you will have Burmese and Cambodian victims who are being trafficked into Thailand and then exploited in industries inside Thailand. And then you've also got people from those countries being trafficked through Thailand and on to Malaysia, where they're being exploited in Malaysia. Is because it's the organic nature of the way trafficking works, and the fact that trafficking tends to follow migratory patterns. What you'll find is that people will be migrating in general, and some migration is successful and some migration isn't. And when a migration is not successful, that person will be forced into prostitution, will be forced into sweatshops or into other labor exploitation, or forced into domestic servitude. So what we're looking at is essentially two things. One, vulnerable populations in those markets and how do we connect with them, but then also the demand markets, and the demand populations. And ultimately, we all represent demand. Like from the clothes we wear, our understanding of supply chain, where things are being produced, this is something that affects us all. And it's something that we want our audience to understand. It's also one of the most challenging things to actually provide specific messages on, because of lack of data. Our particular markets we focused on have been Nepal, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, and that's been to date where we've looked at. But our programming has broadcast across the whole of Asia as well.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the more interesting programs you've done, or at least the more programs in obscure locations, such as heard you mention earlier Borneo and East Timor as well? There's going to be a concert going on there?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of my... I've been at MTV for 8 years now and have been running the campaign since we started it in 2004. And one of the key things I've always been interested in is how can we push the campaign to places where the MTV brand would never visit, because just the economic environment there would never mean that commercially, like, MTV would choose to do something there. And I've found that working in those environments have been the most rewarding, because what it tends to mean is that MTV never travels there. Not only MTV never travels there, but nobody tends to travel there. So the fact that we're going to go there and produce something in those markets becomes really, really positive and creates a massive impact. So, I mean, examples are, we did the first ever MTV shows in Albania, in Europe. We did the first concerts in Laos, the first concerts in Cambodia. We will be doing the first concerts in East Timor. We've worked not only, same in Nepal. We've worked, you can go to Phnom Penh in Cambodia, it's fine, it's one thing. You go to like Sihanoukville and Kampong Cham, which are like rural Cambodia, and then you've got a whole, this is like wild. Like, these are wild locations to be turning up as MTV, putting up a stage and doing a show. The stage and doing a show. The stage and doing a show. The stage and doing a show. Put the stage and doing a show. The stage and doing the stage and doing the stage and doing the stage and doing 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 and doing